Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
I got another story sent to me by a lot of people, and this is a story I've known about for years. But up until recently, it didn't have a legal angle attached to it. It was just simply an interesting story. But the man has now filed a lawsuit, so it became a legal story. Thank you for doing that. So from walesonline.co.uk, and I've seen this story in many, many places. Man says, I'm suing the council for £495 million because they won't give me back my bin bag. Now, I'll translate this from the English for you, because they won't give me back my garbage bag. He threw away something. He wants it back. They won't let him excavate the dump to look for it. And so he's suing them. And he's in essence suing the village. So the man has spent more than a decade trying to get back a dumped hard drive. Now he's assembled a team of top lawyers to sue the council he claims has ignored him. So Connor Gogarty wrote this, and he's filed the lawsuit against Newport Council in a last resort to get back almost £500 million worth of Bitcoin. A mix-up saw the man's hard drive dumped at a recycling center in 2013, causing him to lose access to the cryptocurrency coins, which have since gone up in value just a little bit. Wales Online has seen the court document that says the man, who's now 39 years old, is suing the council for £495 million, which was the peak valuation of the coins from earlier this year. So on that hard drive, he's got the information that would give him access to 8,000 Bitcoins. But he told the Wales Online that this is not a reflection of what's really going on. The point is to leverage the council into agreeing to let him excavate the landfill to avoid a legal battle. So he's even saying, look, I'm not hoping to go to court and just litigate this. I'd rather they just said, okay, drop the lawsuit, we'll let you do this. But that's an issue also. I'll get there. So he's assembled a team of experts who would carry out the £10 million dig, and it would not cost the council anything. He's also offering the council 10% of the value if they recover it. So here's the problem. It's a monstrous landfill. They've been using it for a long time. And 11 years ago, apparently, this man's hard drive wound up in the landfill. And the landfill has been getting stuff dumped in it ever since. So the hard drive is someplace in there, presumably, down near the bottom of some section, and they don't know exactly where. Now, he says they know roughly where. He says he knows roughly where it is because he found a guy who thinks he knows. But to get there, they have to go in and excavate the landfill. And that right there raises all kinds of issues, including environmental concerns. And by the way, there's no guarantee they'll find it. There's also no guarantee that if they find it, the hard drive is still good. Now, there's guys in the audience who know this stuff, and gals, better than I do. So you let me know what you think the odds are. His people think he has decent odds, but even they admit it's not a guarantee. So the case will be heard in December after what the man described as more than a decade of being largely ignored by the council. He says, I'm still allocating 10% of the value for the council, even though they've been problematic throughout. That would be worth about £41 million based on today's rate. In the future, it could go up, of course. And, of course, it could go down. If they had spoken to me in 2013, this place would look like Vegas now. Newport would look like Dubai. That's the kind of opportunity they've missed. So he's saying they've already kind of missed the boat because they could have done this a long time ago. But the hard drive disaster unfolded after a miscommunication between this man and his then partner. He learned about Bitcoin in 2009. And he says that he was probably one of the first miners of the cryptocurrency because he managed to mine 8,000 coins himself. And they cost him not a lot other than just the cost of the electricity. And back then that wasn't that bad because he said he did this on a laptop. He stored the private key needed to access the coins on a 2.5-inch hard drive, which he put in a drawer at his home office. So far, so good. In August of 2013, he had a clear out of equipment. Looking through his drawers, he came across 2 hard drives that were similar. One contained the Bitcoin data, one was blank. He accidentally put the Bitcoin one into a black bin liner, which I'm assuming is a garbage bag. When he went to bed that evening, he asked his then partner if after the school run the next morning, she would take that bin bag and another one to the Newport Household Waste Recycling Center. His partner refused and stated that she did not wish to do that, according to the lawsuit. However, the lawsuit says the man was not overly concerned by her refusal because he had made a mental note to double check to make sure it was the correct hard drive in the bin bag. So he admits that the thought occurred to him that evening that maybe I put the wrong one in the garbage bag. But when he woke up at 9 a.m., his partner had already returned from school and had taken the bin bags to the tip, which I think is similar to saying taking it to the dump. I think those are both verbs, tip or dump. I realize that in this case, to the tip would be a noun, but I think it's a noun that came from a verb. But we understand. So the Bitcoins were worth less than £1 million at the time, but within 3 months they had soared in value to £9 million. One day they could be worth billions, he believes, citing predictions from asset management firms that have told him this. Now, I remember reading this story a long, long time ago, and they're talking about just the things that have happened with Bitcoin, early adopters and so on. I remember reading the stories about this guy who had all these Bitcoin on a hard drive, and the hard drive is in a dump, and he knows what the dump is, but he doesn't know where the hard drive is. So he put together this lawsuit. He's got top barristers, and he first met with a representative of the council back in 2013, and he says since then he's been largely ignored. So he's now turned his attempts to recover the hard drive as a full-time operation. He gave up his job and reached an agreement with investors that would see him left with around 30% of the Bitcoins if the hard drive is found. The rest would be split between the backers, the recovery team, and the council. So he's actually gone out and found people willing to invest in this project. The same way you could get, people to invest in a project to go recover like a sunken ship or something. And so these people put the money up and they're saying, if you can get this project going, we'll pay for it. We just want a slice of what comes out at the other end. According to his court filing, the lost hard drive is in Cell 2, Area 2 of the Docks Way landfill. When asked how he knows this, he revealed he's recruited the council's former head of landfill. Who better than him? He has a very good memory of where things were being buried in the summer of 2013. The joke among us is that he's the one who buried my hard drive. I've got to have a laugh about it. If found, the hard drive, they think there's an 80% chance that the data will be retrievable. Now, they're saying the dig could take anywhere from 18 to 36 months, followed by around a year of remediation work. That means to put the dump back in the condition it started out as. Could take a year. Now, the council rejected these plans due to environmental concerns, but his team of experts insist they could safely excavate the site in a search assisted by artificial intelligence. Why don't they just ask ChatGPT where the hard drive is and tell it to go find it? They've also vowed to help the council modernize the landfill because the landfill's repeatedly been in breach of its permit since 2020 due to levels of arsenic, asbestos, methane, and other substances. Pointing to bad reports from Natural Resources Wales, the claim says, these compliance reports call into question whether the council is a fit and competent landfill operator. So that's one interesting way to try to poke somebody in your pleadings. But they're saying, look, you can use some of the money we give you, and then when we're working on this, we'll also see to it that it gets put back together again, perhaps better than it was. We will improve your dump. The man's barristers accuse the council of refusing to engage with the world-renowned experts who are offering an opportunity to eradicate dangerous waste at their landfill site. They also allege the council has simply ignored the prospect of 10% of the Bitcoins, bringing a huge and desperately needed investment in the local community. The man who's at the center of the lawsuit said this could be worth billions. This is the sort of money that starts wars, and Newport Council won't even have a conversation about it. Meanwhile, lawyers to the council have said that they legally own the hard drive now because it's dumped in the landfill. But this man's barristers have denied this on the basis that he never intended to abandon the hard drive or the intellectual property thereon. So again, what we're talking about is 8,000 Bitcoin worth perhaps $500 million. Worth perhaps £500 million. There's all kinds of conversions necessary in there to convert that to dollars. It's unnecessary. Just know that 8,000 Bitcoin represents a lot of money. A lot of money. But interestingly here, everybody understands what happened. The facts are not in dispute. So, what the question is, and I said this in a video within the last week, is that I have people who ask me questions, and they'll say, Steve, I want to sue somebody. And they name some situation in which they've been wronged. And I say, okay, what do you want to sue them for? And people go, well, I want to sue them for, $500 million. I say, no. That's damages. Remember that to win a lawsuit, you need liability and damages, both in your favor. That is, that there's somebody liable to you for something for which they have to compensate you damages. The question is, what is the liability here? What wrong did the council do so that this man can sue them? Now, here's the thing. It doesn't take a lot of wrong to have somebody be subject to a lawsuit, because as you can imagine, let's suppose that this man was walking across town property and he dropped a bag that had this hard drive in it. And somebody from the village saw it laying on the ground and picked it up and took it to village hall. Well, you could sue to get it back. You could file an action for claim and delivery. You go, that's mine. I want it back. And they could fight you over who owns it. And you could say, I dropped it. I didn't lay it there on purpose. I misplaced it. People misplace things all the time. But the difference here is twofold. And I'm going to go with the easy one first. The length of time that's passed. This happened more than 10 years ago. And so the question is, whatever theory you're going under, is a statute of limitations not a problem here? Because that's an awfully long time to wait. As you can imagine, if the man had approached them on year one and said, I want to go in there and get that out of there, and they said no, and he filed the lawsuit right then, he could say, it's not going to cost hundreds of millions of dollars, but I know that you're going to say, but Steve, the reason you didn't do that is it wouldn't have been worth it at the time. Doesn't matter what his excuse is. The fact of the matter is that he could have filed this action 9 years ago. He could have, but he didn't. But the bigger problem is, and the council points this out, when you take your garbage and put it in a garbage bag and deliver it to the garbage recycling center, you are relinquishing ownership of it. Now, I understand that you're going to say, but Steve, he didn't do that. His roommate did. But you'll recall that he asked his roommate to take it to the dump. Now, I understand he says that the roommate said, I'm not going to take it to the dump because I don't have time. So then he thought, okay, I'll do it tomorrow morning and then I'll check. You have to look at it from the viewpoint of the people operating the landfill. People bring in garbage every single day. They take it and they dump it. They take it and they dump it. Along comes one guy who goes, I want my thing back that I threw away in 2013. It wasn't supposed to come here. But it did. And they did not do anything wrong. Now, I'm talking about the concept in the law that to go into court and ask a court to order someone to do something, where you're asking the court to order something in equity, you have to come into court with clean hands. Now, this man has clean hands. He did not do anything unethical or illegal here, but he did apparently make some mistakes. But the council didn't either. The landfill people didn't either. If they had come by his house and saw it on his porch and picked it up and carried it off and it's, oh, we thought you were throwing it away, that's a different story. Here, the council did everything like they're supposed to do with the trash that's brought to them. They put it in the landfill, and they put more stuff in on top of it. And so when I heard the story, my first thought was, well, I think the council ought to let him do this so long as he puts up the money to prove that he's going to do it in the least intrusive way possible and puts up the money to make sure that he can remedy whatever he causes to happen out there. So if they come in and dig up a chunk of the landfill, number one, they've got to make sure that what they dig up doesn't make things worse. And then they got to make sure they can return it the way it was, restore it. That's going to be an expensive operation. Now, he's saying he can do that now, but here we are 10 years later. And so that's the real issue. So interestingly, the story does not say what legal concept they're going under. The man says the legal effort is covered. We're willing to go all the way to the appeals court, the Supreme Court. With the case of this magnitude, I'm expecting to go the full distance. I didn't really want to go to court, but this is the final shot. And so I can completely see the council going either way on this, going absolutely you can do this, but put the money up front, or no. And that gets us back to what's the legal theory. And I'm assuming they're going to have to go on some kind of theory that this thing belongs to him and he wants it back and they're keeping him from it. But that's a real tough argument to make when it was put into a garbage bag and at one point in time he told someone to take it to the dump and then it got taken to the dump and it was at the dump for some time before he ever even approached them and said, by the way, guys, I threw something away, it's worth a lot of money. So if I was a betting man, which I'm not, and you said, Steve, this case will go to trial, how will the trial court rule? I would bet that he'll lose. I'm not saying I hope he loses, but I'm simply saying I suspect he will. But we'll see. We'll see. But again, my biggest hang-up, besides the statute of limitations issue, because I don't know what legal theory is going under, is what is the legal theory? To recover something that you put in a garbage bag, told someone to take the dump, and they did, even though you can say, I had them tell me that they weren't taking it to the dump, so I thought I had time to check it. And a court very well could look at this and go, you know something? You didn't take enough care with your own thing to now where it's here. That's not the dump's fault. That's your fault. But that's just my inkling, but we'll see how it goes. The bigger question for my tech friends in the audience, and I've got a few, please let me know what you think the odds are of that hard drive surviving 13 years in a landfill, because keep in mind, it was placed in a plastic bag. However, we don't know if the bag was sealed or if it's watertight or if the bag's been torn over since then, torn open. But we also know that more stuff, tons of stuff has been placed on top of it, possibly with bulldozers and things driving on top, mushing things down. What are the odds that the content of the hard drive are even still recoverable? We'll find out. But a lot of people said that. Thanks a lot. The story is from walesonline.co.uk. The story's been out there for a while, but now the guys filed a lawsuit. Connor Gogarty wrote that. I'm suing the council for £495 million because they won't give me back my bin bag. And it's not that they won't give it back to him. They won't let him go in there and dig for it. That's the point. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. Don't hate yourself in the morning. Sleep till noon.